Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at. Thank you for joining today's quarterly meeting for Uncrewed Aerial Systems Committee under the American Society of Civil Engineers Transportation and Development Institute. My name is Halil Ceylan. I'm a professor at Iowa State University, and I serve as the chair of this committee. So it's 11:02 a.m. my time here in Iowa. So I think in the interest of time, we can get going. So we do have an outstanding speaker today from Utah DOT. And before we start with that presentation, we have a few slides, to cover here. And I do have my colleagues, the committee officers here on the Zoom meeting. So, you see our meeting agenda here. We'll start with the committee introductions and give you some updates about, the T&DI leadership and all that. And then we'll continue with the presentation by Paul Damron from Utah DOT. And then, we'll talk about, we'll have some discussions about the recent developments on the UAS technology, FAA remote ID requirements. That's a very relevant topic. And then we'll close the meeting. So we're targeting about 1.5 hours for today's the meeting. So, so Wei, would you like to provide some comments on the, for the attendees to provide their contact information on the chat box?
Yeah, I will type something about the name, affiliation, and email address in the chat box, and welcome everyone to type them.
Okay. So as we mentioned, you see the message on the chat box. If you can please provide your name, affiliation, and email address, we greatly appreciate it. If you're a new attendee, we gather this information and add it to our the committee roster so that you can actually hear about the future the events. So thank you for doing that. We greatly appreciate it. And I think we can continue with the the next slide. And we do have a committee leadership introduction. And if you're not, presenting, speaking, if you can please keep yourself mute, we greatly, appreciate it. So, and so as I mentioned, I did provide a brief introduction earlier. My name is Halil Ceylan. I've been with Iowa State University. I just started my 22nd year here. And my research and teaching mainly focuses on the transportation infrastructure system. And I have huge interest on the infrastructure health monitoring, condition assessment, analysis, and design. And that's where my interest on the UAS technology comes from, uncrewed aircraft systems. And I actually have been doing a good size project sponsored by the Federal Aviation Administration on the use of small uncrewed aircraft systems for airfield payment inspection. And we have several publications posted on the FAA website and several peer-reviewed publications that have appeared on ASCE conferences and, the TRB and all that. So, and anyways, that's just a brief introduction about myself. I serve as the director of the PROSPER program for sustainable payment engineering and research. I also serve as the Iowa State University site director for FAA Pegasus Center of Excellence on general aviation. So we can continue with other colleagues in upcoming slides.
Yeah, I'll introduce myself. My name is Blaine Ruck. I serve as vice chair on the UAS committee. So pleased to be here with you all. I've been involved with the committee for a little over 3 years now, since we first got started back in 2020. And so as vice chair, I'm just kind of helping coordinate outreach and do those sorts of things. In my day-to-day life, I'm a transportation engineer. I work at Deschutes County Road Department, which is a county road department in Central Oregon on the west coast of the US. And I'm responsible for capital project management, pavement management, as well as traffic engineering duties here at the county. So prior to that, I worked as a consultant, which was kind of my introduction to using drones. So I used to work for a consulting agency where I did pavement engineering, and as part of that, did a lot of pavement condition surveys. So I sort of developed my own process of using drones to conduct pavement condition surveys for pavement rehabilitations and different things for various agencies around Oregon and Washington. And that was about 3 years ago. So I've been using drones professionally for approximately 3 years. I still use it very often in my work now for kind of construction progress monitoring, traffic engineering, roadway design, trying to determine as many applications as I can for this great technology. So, and I've recently presented some of my work related to ADA compliance evaluation at the past ASCE T&DI conference in Austin, Texas this last year. So, but yeah, pleased to be here. I'm happy to be a part of this committee, and hope you enjoy today's meeting. And I'll pass it off to our next colleague. Actually, I'll have to introduce him myself because Ed couldn't join us today. Ed Bartels is our secretary. He works for Johnson County Secondary Roads Department in Iowa. And so Ed,
Blaine, Ed just joined us.
Oh,
so
did he? Okay.
Ed, would you like to please go ahead and introduce yourself? Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. Blaine was doing just fine. I'm the secretary for the committee, and I'm pleased to see so many people here, and I hope that hope you all enjoy this excellent presentation we've got set up for today. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say today. So just welcome, and we're pleased to see you all here.
Okay. And our next committee member, Wei, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Wei. I serve as Committee Outreach Coordinator. I'm a PhD candidate in Transportation Engineering program at the University of Cincinnati. My research focuses on the area of intelligent transportation system, including cooperative traffic operations, sustainability, and AI applications with transportation automation. And I also focus on developing emerging CV and CV, mobility data intelligence and informatics. And also before my journey to pursue a PhD degree, I worked as a licensed safety engineer at Fuzhou Airlines in China for 3 years. I also got some certificates such as ISO 9001, and I'm so happy to be with you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wei, for your introduction. We greatly appreciate it, and I'm just blessed to work with many outstanding colleagues here. Blaine, Ed, and Wei have been of huge help to make the committee activities work seamlessly. So I appreciate all of their hard work. So you can see the UAS committee leadership team here. Our names and titles, contact information are listed here. And we also just established a US committee email account, and you can see that here, uscommittee.asce@gmail.com. So if any of you have any questions anytime, feel free to reach us, through our either personal emails, or you can send an email to the US committee email account, and the copy others as needed. And we'd be happy to, get you added to our committee roster and answer any questions that you may have. And, like we've done in the past, if any of you are interested in delivering a presentation for our upcoming quarterly meetings and all that, would love to hear from you. If you have some, the interesting applications, research findings, and such, we will be happy to, get in touch with you and see if we can get you scheduled for one of our upcoming quarterly meetings. So, Blaine, did you have anything else to add here?
No, not for this one. Yeah, we developed the email account just for correspondence with our committee members and sort of outreach to everyone. That we felt that would just be a more sustainable way to do things as the committee grows. So yeah, please feel free to reach out to us there, or like Khalil said, to any of our personal email accounts as well. So. But yeah, so hopefully our correspondence to you isn't going to your spam box. Maybe you want to check your spam box if you're not receiving our email correspondence. So.
And this is the say the mission statement for our committee. And we're aiming to develop a roadmap to serve as a forum for the exchange of ideas and knowledge among users, researchers, and engineers from academia, industry, and government, and people interested in development of the UAS technologies and their applications to transportation, the management. And today's meeting is actually a great example of this. We have an outstanding speaker and a presentation, to be shared with you. And so we appreciate again you taking the time out of your busy schedules, joining today's the meeting. And we do have some updates from the T&DI management. As Blaine mentioned, we actually had the last ASCE T&DI meeting in Austin, Texas last June. And our actually sessions, committee meetings were well attended. The conference was jointly held with the international conference, on transportation and development, and also international conference on, airfield and highway payments engineering. And so it was actually a very well attended with, I think, up to like 900 people attending this event in Austin, Texas. So, and we're having today's, the quarterly meeting, and then our next meeting is going to be held at the TRB annual meeting in Washington, D.C. As you know, that's the largest gathering of the transportation, the engineers, officials, and it's been going on for over a century, actually. So that's where the next meeting is going to be coordinated. But we always provide a virtual link if you're not able to make the the in-person attendance at TRB annual meeting. So it will be held in hybrid format, like we did the last meeting, the one that we held in Austin, Texas.
Yeah, I'll unfortunately not be able to join it at TRB in person. So we found that the hybrid format is great for extending reach to those who may be interested that might not be able to attend the conference. So it's a great format that's been working well for us. So.
So we're now going to switch to today's presentation, Airspace Awareness for State UAS Operations. And our speaker is Paul Damron, and he is the Advanced Air Mobility Manager at Utah Division of Aeronautics. And Utah DOT is one of the actually most active state highway agencies implementing UAS technology and doing some really interesting work. And we're very honored to have Paul and kindly accepting our invitation, to share his, the knowledge and experience on this topic with us today. That, Paul?
Thank you. Let me share my screen. I appreciate the opportunity. I was just at the IHEEP conference that's located here this year in Utah. Not sure if any of you have been to that conference before, but there was a lot of great conversations around data acquisition via UAVs and how to share, store, utilize that data with engineers. So thanks for the introduction. Like they said, my name is Paul Damron. I work with UDOT's Division of Aeronautics. I've been with UDOT in the GIS and data analytics side for 10 years. I've been with Aeronautics for the last 2. My main responsibilities with Aeronautics is first and foremost, we manage 43 airports, commercial and municipal airports, and I'm in charge of kind of the liaison project manager on the UDOT side for projects. I work with the improvement program piece of it with engineers. But the most exciting part of my job would be to talk about an advanced UAS and advanced air mobility for the state of Utah. And that is the discussion today, airspace awareness for state UAS operations. And that could be interpreted several different ways. I'm going to take, I mean, I thought I could discuss and share a lot of projects that we've done along the way, where, you know, we're doing bridge inspections, we're doing airport inspections using drones, looking at change detection. We're looking at pavement inspections on our roadway, reflectivity on signs, pavement. We're using drones for I'm not sure if I mentioned structures. We're also looking at them with our signs, being able to not shut down lanes and put a lift truck or a boom truck in a lane and inspect signs. We could do it from the right of way and zoom in and look at everything. Avalanches, we have issues with avalanches in the winter, so we're using drones to identify hazardous areas. Communications departments using drones to identify projects, keep the public informed with what different projects are going on. So those are some of the projects that we've been utilizing UAVs for. But I wanted to take the approach of more or less of the airspace awareness. How can states develop traffic management system or a awareness platform so that not just DOT operators, but also consultants, contractors for the DOT fly? I mean, right now, pilots are responsible for creating a flight plan. Pilots are responsible of identifying, understanding the airspace that they're flying in. But we're not quite sure who's flying next to us, if there's a drone next to us. Remote ID, I know will be discussed a little later. That's not really an option for us. We at the state, there's got to be more. There's got to be some more awareness, not just a management of what UDOT's doing, but what's going on around the state. So jumping right in, Utah Aeronautics is pushing forward with advanced air mobility, and I put several things inside this advanced air mobility bucket. Advanced air mobility means more than just eVTOLs carrying passengers from one place to another. We're talking any UAS or UAV flights, regional air mobility within the states, or connecting states using electric vehicles, or the advancements in aviation. We're also looking at urban, rural connected vehicles. We're looking at cargo delivery, whether that's small packages under the 55 pounds or heavy lift cargo. Utah's got an inland port authority that we're working with to identify how can we support their operations from ports or rail stations to ports to airports to just dispersing the goods throughout Utah. And so we clump everything in this advanced air mobility bucket, and what we're trying to do is identify what's the infrastructure regulatory piece, what is the software programming that we need in place to run an effective a UAS or advanced air mobility as the technology grows and develops. And so you may hear me talk about advanced air mobility, but when I say advanced air mobility, I really mean all of this. It all encompasses everything. I do have time. We'll have time after the presentation for questions. But if you guys want to do more of a discussion, I'm happy. Just jump in whenever you want. So let's define some key elements that we've been doing to push forward. In 2021, we had several legislative pieces move through the state. A lot of that was, related to advanced air mobility, identifying what additional assets are needed to implement a feasibility study. We're doing a lot with vertiports. In 2022, unmanned aircraft amendments, as well as navigation amendments and easements. We're looking at how can, or what do we need in place now? And we get a lot of people saying, well, are we bringing the cart before the horse? And our answer is no, we're not. We have to lay this foundation first in order to build a successful UAS program. 2023 was a good year for our legislation. We had some amendments inside our advanced air mobility piece. We defined a lot of things like what is a Part 107 operator, what is a Part 135, what is a drone. We're defining. We took definitions from the FAA and put it into key definitions for the state of Utah. Later on, I'll talk a little bit more about what studies we're doing, but we're also identifying how can we empower cities to help manage and support UAS operations commercially. Regulatory responsibilities. We've been talking about zoning. What does takeoff and landing operations look like? How can the states monitor or manage the ground piece, which I've had a lot of discussions with different agencies, industry, and the FAA about regulating and managing air operations. We are not telling anybody they cannot fly within the skies above Utah, but what we can do is regulate the ground piece. And a lot of that has to do with traditional aviation. The municipalities and states are the authoritative source for ground operations for the state of Utah, and the FAA cannot regulate those types of pieces outside of the support with the state. So looking at what are some zoning types or languages for takeoff and landing operations, permits for business licensing, do the Part 107 consultants, do they go out and get a separate business license? We encourage different state municipal agencies to develop their own UAS language and their own programs. Stakeholders with innovation with task force have been big. We've got 4 different study groups that we're putting together. One with OEMs on eVTOLs and UAS providers, as well as air traffic. We've got individuals with the FAA and the Traffic Operations Center, Air Traffic Operations Center at Salt Lake International going to join us. Hill Air Force Base is also in northern Utah. They're going to join us and discuss how can we, what are we doing within the airspace? How do they operate within the airspace? How can we operate within the airspace? How can we share data back and forth with one another? And then just land use planning. So what is airspace awareness? It's not airspace awareness. We were utilizing a term that the FAA did not like, and we were talking about managing the airspace for Utah, and they quickly put a stop to that, which I agree with. Their management from the blade of grass all the way to space is their term, but there's got to be some type of opportunity for states to say, no, wait a second, we do have to manage what's going on, but not to the point that we're telling people no, right? That they can't fly or operate. But But what we can do is just be aware. So the airspace awareness is a term that we've adopted so that we don't get in trouble with our FAA friends. That industry that is operating right now doesn't think we're taking over and gonna come up with our own set of rules and stuff. But so to define airspace awareness, what is going on within the NAS in Utah? What if something was to happen with a drone and it drops on someone within the right of way or on property or persons? The governor is going to get involved. His office is going to reach out to us, and then we're not going to have the adequate information to identify what's really going on. And so this airspace awareness and untraffic management solution is critical for us so that we can provide that safety buffer on top of what the FAA is already requesting, so that we are making sure we're in balance as well. And so what can states do? I talked about regulate, oversee, and manage. But what I see a lot with discussions with the FAA is that the states are being left out. We're not being, there's not a lot of states that are being asked, hey, how should or how would you guys like to manage or oversee what's going on in the air? Operators, companies, businesses are moving in, consultants are moving in. How can we be sure that we're safely bridging that gap? And I think there's this disconnect with the federal agency in relation to that with the relationship with states. And it's something that I've been trying to bridge that gap. There are several within different offices with the FAA that I've had great conversations with. But ultimately, they're going to pay attention to industry, and they're going to support industry and tell industry that they're managing the airspace and that they've got the tools in place. But there's just still that piece awareness that we've got to be we've got to have. So the UAS operations in Utah, we've done a really good job. In the past, we are not centralized. We operate the UAS program right now as we speak under the Aeronautics, but it wasn't that way. It was with our program development office. They were the ones that saw the need initially. Because airports in Aeronautics, we manage airports, and we don't really need to go and fly our drones and take and capture imagery on our airports, often. So it wasn't something that we really looked at. But the program development office said, hey, look, when we're doing roadway projects or our structures needing to do inspections, how can we utilize these tools? And so it was underneath the central office underneath the roadway side of the DOT or UDOT, and they did a great job. There was some personnel changes from that department to Aeronautics, and then him leaving. I don't know if you know, it was Paul Wheeler who really put together this program, and we've been building on top of it. But and then there was another individual that was hired, and then he left. And so then we just said, look, with all this UAS and AAM technology moving forward, we probably should be the gatekeeper of the UAS program. And so, but in the past, what we've done is it really took innovative thinking. We had to justify and demonstrate that, hey, look, these projects warrant a different tool to gather data or visually view what's going on. We're a big adopter in GIS as well, and so the products that we use for GIS, there was a seamless plug from the UAS data right into our GIS. It was initially they had to find what use cases were the best to demonstrate these the proper opportunity for UAS. And then to receive to receive approval and purchase the drones, we still struggle with that because we are not centrally developed, and we don't have appropriated funds through legislation or a UDOT budget that says, hey, look, we'll give you guys X amount of dollars each year to increase your fleet or update your fleet. And so we've really had to take individual use cases still today and say, look, the lifespan of these drones are coming up. We need to get a new one. Each region, we have 4 regions in the state of Utah, and they all kind of have their own UAS coordinator that they work with to make sure they're getting the right information from us. And so that purchasing of those drones is still difficult. Then they completed the work. So they supported many projects at the beginning. The development, like I said, of technology with drones continued to skyrocket. Presently, what we're doing, it is in Division of Aeronautics, like I said. We do have a small fleet of drones provided to us by our incident management team. They were able to acquire some funding to update their fleet, and so we've been getting some of their newer, older equipment so that we could then provide an opportunity for UDOT employees that need to use a drone that don't have one, or remote pilots to do their work, and so they can check those out. In-house tools, I'll discuss a little bit more about that, but we have flight approval process. We have some data analytics that we can share with leadership. The support U.S. operations from the leadership level we've been gaining the momentum from them. Legislators, we have a handful of legislators that are very excited about advanced air mobility and the UAS operations that UDOT's doing, and so we can every year work with them through the legislative session to say, hey, look, we need to fine-tune this or redefine this, or let's create a new bill to do this. One of our most recent bills that were created was UDOT had created a railway division, and within that railway there's 3 or 4 people right now, but legislatively they were told that they could create a drone program and were appropriated some funds, and so we're going to work with them to identify what tools they need, work with them to provide the necessary BVLOS operations within their right-of-way, like other states have done. And so we've also developed and updated our supporting SOPs, which I'm happy to share. If you want those, get with the committee or myself. And we've also continued to work with the steering committee. Each region has a different need for supporting UAS operations, and so we want to make sure that their needs are met. In the future, we're looking at creating a unmanned traffic management system, some type of flight exchange that we can manage in-house for our in-house operations or any state agency. This is going to give us that airspace awareness that we're talking about, to where we can identify and understand where flights are happening, so that there's and I'll give you some examples in a little bit, but so that the pilots know that, hey, if I right now they put in the flight approval, but there's no understanding if there's other UAS flights happening within the area or at the same time. And so in the future, short-term future, we're going to develop that UTM and unmanned service supplier flight exchange suite of software to help us do that. We are developing a UAS program for UDOT. We are working with the governor's office to identify additional full-time individuals, positions that we can fill in for UAS operations. Continuing to work with the FAA. Our next step with the FAA is to do BVLOS operations. Utah has a lot of open space, a lot of roads that just go out in the middle of nowhere. There's no one around, no structures. And so we believe that BVLOS operations in certain airspace and locations in the state are going to be easier to, those are low-hanging fruit, but that's our next step. We have a aeronautics conference every year that everybody's invited to come out to. We talk a lot about aviation in general. There are a lot of AAM and UAS presenters and exhibitors, so kind of put a plug in for that. And then we're implementing plans for advanced air mobility related to drone package delivery for Part 107 operators, which I'll talk about in a little bit. I can't remember, how much time do I have?
You've got until you've got about another 20 minutes or so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The unmanned traffic management system, we'll talk about that right now. And this is that airspace awareness key. There's a lot of terminology going around right now talking about flight information, exchanging that, how that's going to be exchanged, who's going to be the owner of the data, the UAS service suppliers, USS, and the supplemental data service providers. All these are data sets or sources from UAS operators or unmanned traffic management operators like Aloft and the Before You Fly partnership with the FAA. They have those service the supplemental data that could be then shared with state entities so that we could dump it into our own traffic management system. We believe that the unmanned traffic management system that we are going to have is going to be not a one-stop shop application. We're going to have to have 3 to 4 different programs that are going to help us integrate this airspace awareness application. Some of the stuff that we have done right now in-house to alleviate some of the stress that some of us operators have related to safety. And this we've been able to do all in-house with programs that we have already developed or that we're already using. Like I said, we're big into GIS, so we're an Esri-based GIS state entity, and so we're using those tools to develop our flight approval application. We have a drone fleet application that it's not a maintenance application yet, but we're trying to get there. But we need to be aware of what drones we own, how old they are, who's operating them, and that type of stuff. And then we have, based off of the data that we're getting from the flight approval and drone fleet, we then have the data analytics to back up what's going on. As of just last week, it shows we've done 135 flights on our roadway. Half of them UDOT consultants or UDOT individuals and then consultants. And so we're really trying to adopt these new tools. And I was told yesterday that I can't remember what state it told me, but we need to take away the term that it's a tool and replace it with a program. And I agreed with them 100%, because it's got to be a part of our program. UDOT has what's called a project delivery network. And if it's not in that project delivery network, consultants are not bound by a contract to do it. However, as you can see, 68 flights that have been done by consultants, they've adopted this program or these tools to support the projects that they're doing. And so they're doing it all on their own. The flight awareness applications that we're going to be developing is going to be for those operators, those different state agencies. And as we talk about advanced air mobility, it'll be there for those other type of operators, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But we've progressively have done more flights year over year or quarter over quarter. I'm not sure why Q3 was such a slow was such a slow year, but we primarily utilize our drones for construction and survey purposes, is what the data is telling us. And we require every pilot that's going to go fly on a UDOT project, consultant or UDOT employee, that they have to go in through the flight approval application right now. And like I said, that's an initial internal tool to allow us to know what's going on. And it's an added protection from what the FAA is already asking us to do. We don't have, a lot of states don't have funding to go purchase a license to one of these UTM companies like Aloft or Airspace Link. We just don't have the funding for it. We have to wait for it to be appropriated to us. And before it can be appropriated to us, we have to do a study to try to identify what's going to be the best solution for us. And so initially we knew what we needed to develop, and we were able to develop that all in-house. And we're happy to share these tools with you if you're an Esri user. These are built with Survey 123 and then the dashboard application. So we're happy to share these. The flight approval process looks like this. So we have our web page. They go in, click on the flight approval form, and then it's asking just some simple questions. And then it gives them the opportunity to go on the map and draw a polygon. And we're pulling in TFRs, we're pulling in all of the necessary FAA airspace and LANCE authorization locations, flight ceilings, and that type of stuff into this application. Was all open source data, so it was really simple to do. And we have our own algorithm inside of it that says that if your polygon is within the boundary of one of these polygons, then you could be denied flight, or it says go get a LANCE approval or authorization. We don't have a dedicated LANCE provider right now. We recommend that everybody just use what they're comfortable with. We were using Aloft until they pulled their the free version to state entities. So we just tell the pilots to do what they feel is comfortable, what they're comfortable with, as long as they provide that LANCE authorization number to us. Here are, this is called the Wasatch Front, Salt Lake Valley. These polygons are areas that flights have happened. These flights, and in some locations there's flights stacked on top of each other, just whatever the duration of the project is. But right now we're required to have all consultants that are working on our projects use this application as well. We have 50 remote pilots in UDOT, and we have 45 drones. We total around 300 flights a year. Our incident management team, they do about 150 flights each year. With our highway patrol officers, they do a lot of accident reconstruction and aerial imagery for incidents on our roadways. And so we don't show that data in our dashboard because it's sensitive information to the highway patrol group. So we just usually get a number of how many flights they've done each month. Now this is why we talked a little bit about different operators that are flying within the same airspace. Consultant A could be down the road a half a mile, and consultant B is doing another project within the area, and they really don't know that they're operating the same day, the same time, same airspace. And so this airspace awareness is so critical because of applications like what you see here. So the red bound, so we have Zipline and Drone Up are two of our drone package delivery companies, autonomous drone package delivery companies. Zipline recently in the news, you may have heard, was given approval for Part 135 beyond visual line of sight. So their operating boundary is that funny looking clover shaped red boundary, while Zipline is the red, Drone Up is the orange, and then Future the blue with their quadcopter. Right now they do operate within the same airspace. And right now they're not sharing flight information with each other. They pick up the phone and say, one of our clients requested a package, we'll be flying on this day at this time, and the other party is willing to shut down operations and let them do their mission and then resume once they're gone. Which is not, as a business, I think business model is not feasible. And so we're taking it upon ourselves as a state agency to say, look, we'll help you develop these tools, or we'll develop the tools that you guys could then utilize the flight information and be aware of what other operations. I mean, the two different, this airspace within the South Jordan, the big red, is within several of these flights that are going on right now. And so that flight awareness is very critical. Luckily, there's nothing that's gone on or happened, but and these package delivery companies are developing technology to detect and avoid, which is great, but that's during flight. We'd like to see that this detect and avoid can happen programmatically within applications while they're setting up their flight plans. We have done some studies, and this is our roadmap. And I can give you the link to this UAS, Advanced Air Mobility Infrastructure Regulatory Study. But our phase one, I want to just talk about right now, is a 2 to 3 year. We need to meet the current demands, and inside that is a unmanned traffic monitoring system for airspace awareness. And we've actually went to the legislators and have asked for appropriated funds for each of these phases, and we were able to get some money to do some studies. And so what we're doing is, this next year, October 15th, we're kicking off a study to look at ground support vertiport locations that the state-owned property. We're looking at the UTM, what type of UTM would be feasible for the state of Utah, a test site. We'd like Utah to become one of the, a test site for UAS operations to let institutions, agencies, industry come in and test their applications. Then the community outreach, public involvement is critical. They've got to have a buy-in, and then micro weathering reporting is something we'll be studying. That's my presentation. There's my contact information. Feel free to call me, text me, email me. I'm happy to further these discussions. So is there any questions? Hopefully I left some time.
Yeah, we've definitely got some time for questions. Yeah, if any audience members have any questions for Paul. Well, I've personally definitely got a few. I think it's really interesting, this work you're doing, and myself as a Part 107 pilot, I've often been curious about how different UAS operations might interface with each other, especially in more urban environments too, with a higher sort of density potentially of UAS flights. And so one thing you mentioned is first of all, I think that request tool for your approvals is really great, and I would love to try to poach some of that for our agency.
Yeah.
But you mentioned you have a field for Lance authorization numbers. I'm curious, does UDOT get notified like if there's a Lance approval at a nearby airport? Is there any system for you to receive a notification, say from the airport authority or the FAA, that something's going on?
No. but that's a really good idea.
Yeah, it seems like that would be a great next step in the future.
Yep.
But yeah, and then as far as your approvals process, it sounds like when you're working with a consultant, you're requiring approval. So you're requiring them to fill out that approvals form. I'm wondering if any members of the public or other, commercial or recreational users are using that tool sort of on a voluntary basis as well.
No, not yet. It's only for UDOT projects, but as we develop that system that I was talking about, an actual UTM application, we will be requiring all Part 107 operators to utilize that tool.
Good, yeah.
Require, or we would suggest that they, gotta be careful with my words, we would suggest that they use it.
Right. Yeah, no, that sounds like a great thing to be doing for sure. And then kind of final question for me, if I guess in your approvals app, is there anything that would trigger the reviewer to identify if any special waivers are needed? So for instance, like, flying past civil twilight, needing a special waiver to fly at night, or flying over a public right of way when there might be, people or moving vehicles. Is there any considerations for that or sort of safeguards surrounding that?
No, we talked about that, but we wanted to make sure that the operators were more aware of the airspace, where they, by the FAA terms or standards, where they can and can't fly. We wanted to make sure that they're more aware of that than us tracking those waivers. We're getting into some BVLOS operations, and so we're not putting a lot more any more development into this application because we were appropriated some funds to actually acquire a UTM product, and that's why we're doing our study initially, is to identify what that tool needs to be. And so I'm hoping next year this time we'll have something in place that would then do what you're asking.
Gotcha. Okay, that's great. Yeah, it's exciting to see that you guys are looking ahead to BVLOS as well, and definitely would be happy to have you back down the road to chat about that at a future event. So
yep, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, awesome presentation, super interesting. So
Thanks.
Appreciate you sharing that. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again, and we can get back to our presentation here. So,
Blaine, I do have to jump off, so to jump into another meeting, but I appreciate the time, and
no
feel
problem.
free, anybody, to reach out.
Okay, yeah, thanks a lot, Paul. Really appreciate you joining.
Okay, thanks, and I will connect with the committee.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so yeah, excellent presentation from Paul. I personally thought that was very, very, very interesting. Very relevant topic. So yeah, speaking of relevant topics in UAS, I thought it was prudent to bring up this topic of remote ID. So there's some forthcoming regulations surrounding that. And basically it's governed under Part 89 of Chapter 14 of the Code of Federal Regulations. And I'm sure most drone users should be at least somewhat aware of this by now. This has been talked about for several years, but we're actually getting to the implementation stage. So basically, to sum it up, all UAS that are more than about a half a pound, they have to be capable of broadcasting identification and location information. So that would be, who is the operator, where are they operating, what is the aircraft platform, and broadcasting that publicly so that other airport authorities and other interested parties can basically view that information in case there's any like security concerns or problems with the flight, you know, a pilot who's entering restricted airspace, that type of thing. FAA also does have approved identification areas where remote ID is not required, although I'm not super certain at this time where those areas are and what that looks like. So I guess we'll see as time goes on. But basically this enforcement policy took effect actually a couple of weeks back. And so currently there's, you know, there's several UAS platforms that are compliant with this, basically out of the box. And that those come from kind of the most prominent manufacturers, like DJI, for instance, has a few, Wingtra, a lot of other aircraft platforms. But most of the ones that, you know, have already been produced like years back, those are still not yet compliant. So this really the only approved UAS at this time are ones that are manufactured after December of 2022. So, but I think that most manufacturers are going to achieve compliance with this through software updates. And I think in most cases that's sort of applicable. And so because of this, because a lot of these software updates haven't really rolled out yet, there's a grace period on this that goes through about mid-March of next year. So UAS pilots can still operate with their existing aircraft even without remote ID. Although basically you're running short on time, and it'd be better to have some safeguards in place so that you can continue your operations without being in violation of this new rule. So so they do, as I mentioned, software updates are one way that this is being achieved. But there's also standalone broadcast modules that are available that you can actually attach to your aircraft, and these will broadcast that information sort of separately from your drone platform. So if you're using, for instance, like an older drone platform that, you know, you might not be able to achieve this through software update, you could still use that if you got one of these modules. And there's various options out there. I've done some light research because we have an older Phantom 4 in our fleet that our maintenance and operations staff is using, and it'd be nice to, you know, continue using that. And so kind of looking into options there so that we can, you know, maintain that as part of our operating fleet. And so here's as I mentioned, there's an approved list of drone platforms that basically are in compliance with this new rule. And this link here, if you visit that, that's kind of the current list, and I'm expecting that'll be updated fairly often by the FAA. But anyway, I thought this was a really interesting new forthcoming regulation, and I thought it was a prudent discussion topic for today. So I'm curious if any other drone users out there, how you guys are coping with this, or how you're sort of preparing to be compliant with this. Does anyone have anyone want to chime in with their experience?
Well, doesn't sound like there's a whole lot of folks talking, but I know in our agency over here, Blaine, we're preparing to update our fleet. And right now I'm looking at possibly having to retire the Mavic 2 Pro that I've been using for the most part. That's our workhorse. Because I don't think that one's going to be software updatable, although I think they said it was, but we just haven't seen that coming. So we're looking at maybe this is an opportunity to upgrade our fleet and just get one of the newer, you know, better camera, like a Mavic 3 or something like that with the rolling shutter that would service going into the future. So their marketing seems to have worked.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I did notice that the Mavic 3 is listed on the Declaration of Compliance. So yeah, and I also, my personal drone is a Mavic 2 Pro, and really hoping for that software update. We'll see. It sounds like it might happen, but it might not. It's kind of uncertain at the moment, but yeah, it's definitely gonna have some implications for everybody. So yeah, hopefully it doesn't compromise the ability to sort of grow this technology, and doesn't make it, you know, it doesn't prohibit like new users and sort of implementation is my concern. Although I do think it is an important regulation. I just have a fear that maybe it'll kind of dampen things a little bit, but I guess we'll see. Okay, well, yeah, if there's no other discussion on that, I just wanted to bring that up. Kind of plowing ahead here. So recently, Wei Lin, who's our committee outreach coordinator, she joined the committee earlier this year. She's been a huge help in developing sort of our and expanding our outreach as a committee. So Wei, do you want to talk a little bit about the new UAS committee LinkedIn page?
Yeah, this is our community LinkedIn account, and we highly encourage you to connect with our committee. Please search for UAS Committee ASCE or visit this link. We will post virtual meeting recordings, committee activities, and future committee events. I also typed the link in the chat box.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we did a great job of putting this together. So if any folks are on LinkedIn, definitely encourage you to connect with our committee there, and this will be another forum where you can monitor committee activities. So okay, moving ahead. So we always like to discuss sort of the past and future committee events that are going on. So we recently met at International Conference on Transportation and Development this year, back in June. That took place in Austin, Texas. Our committee had 2 podium sessions where we had several interesting presentations. Here's a photo of our committee chair delivering a presentation. And we also had a hybrid committee meeting that took place kind of the day before the conference really started. So it was great to have a lot of presence there. We look forward to kind of continuing that moving forward. So looking ahead, we do have some presence at TRB annual meeting 2024 that takes place in January. So if you're attending TRB, definitely encourage you to look for our committee functions. We'll have a meeting occurring. We might even have potentially some collaboration with other TRB standing committees. We're kind of working on that currently. Also, ASCE T&DI 2024. Want to remind everyone that call for abstracts is currently open through October 18th. So definitely encourage you to submit some work on UAS related topics or otherwise. We'll probably have 2 sessions again, so there's definitely some opportunity for you to present your work at this conference, which is also taking place next June. I believe it's in Atlanta, Georgia this time around. So, and actually I'm going to skip forward here. This is sort of the flyer for that. So we've sent out a couple emails about this regarding the abstract submission, but definitely stay tuned to this event. There will probably be more forthcoming information from ASCE very soon. And then also we're doing these quarterly meetings, webinars, where we have basically at least one interesting presentation each time from a UAS professional. We also generally try to have some good discussion on relevant topics. So these are usually taking place virtually, but can be hybrid where they align with conferences. So definitely stay tuned for those notices. We'll be sending those out via email. Committee involvement. So we're always looking for new committee members. So we have a voting membership and associate membership. So if you're an ASCE member, a due paying ASCE member, you can become a full member of the committee and have voting membership. You'll also be eligible for leadership positions as they become available. As an associate member, you'll be listed on our committee roster, but you just won't be able to serve in a leadership position or sort of enjoy the voting membership benefits there. But we're in the process of developing a committee activity director position, which will basically assist with coordinating these types of meetings, coordinating with other committees for conference events, that type of thing. So yeah, if you're interested in that and you're interested in committee membership, definitely please reach out to us. You can drop it in the chat box, or you can feel free to send an email, and we'd be happy to give you more information. So yeah, kind of bringing this to a close. Please connect with us on LinkedIn if you're a LinkedIn user. Reach out to us with inquiries about committee membership and to get involved with the committee. Our committee website is hosted on ASCE, so the easiest way to get to that is just Google search ASCE UAS committee. It should be the first or second result. We're also starting to do follow-up surveys for these types of meetings. So I've got a QR code right here. You can scan that and take our survey. I'm also going to send out an invitation to take the survey via email as well. So you'll all be getting that in your inbox. And yeah, that's about it for today's meeting. Unless anyone has any final questions or comments or anything from my fellow committee leadership folks. Okay, all right. Well, thanks everyone. Appreciate your participation, and yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this, and look forward to seeing you all at a future committee event. So everybody, please take care. Have a good day.